Hello and welcome back to another video. I wasn't I was not really planning on making a video for the middle of the patch because I thought we were just going to be getting Mandy and nothing else. But turns out that we have an entire half anniversary event to cover. So in this video, I'm going to be going over the half anniversary banner, how it works, what characters you should generally go for, assuming you don't have them. And then we will also briefly go over Mandy, who is the current rate up. Both of these banners are going to last for 2 weeks, so there's not too much time to decide where to invest your pulse. Now, the first thing about half anniversary, do keep in mind that with the half anniversary, we are having a 14-day login event. And on the 14th day, there's going to be a limited SSR selector chest given for free. So from what I'm seeing here, it doesn't look like you can. It looks like you can't pick all of them. Like for example, if you look at the description here, you can't pick combat mode Shiro, but you can pick Dorothy, Trixie, Luminous Star Poppy, Butterfly Cheese, Scarlet, Marlena, Shiki, Ren. Um, let's see. Why do I not remember who Spiritual Healing is? Anyways, Eleanor. Oh yeah, Sage. Sage, Eleanor, Afros, Jinque, Savannah, and Fata. Right? So pretty much every limited besides combat mode Shiro can be selected from this chest. If you're trying to use this to get a dupe on combat mode Shiro, unfortunately you can't, but every other limited seems to be available here, so that's pretty good. Now, for the main part of this patch, the main reason why we were looking forward to half anniversary, we have the celebration summon. This summon will only come around during half anniversaries and anniversaries, right? And basically, how it works is it's a regular rate up banner, except you pick your rate up, right? So if you see here, we have basically every limited. Do keep in mind that collab units, vanilla, chocola, black tea, rice, are excluded. And Halloween Minami is also not on here because she is holiday exclusive, right? But other than that, everybody up until the Jinque patch is here. You also have the option to select any prior battle pass unit besides Lily, of course. And it looks like Floppy Flipper's Astra is missing from here as well. Oddly enough, I don't think that matters to anybody, but she is missing. And then, of course, you can select any standard banner character. Now, I would highly advise against selecting Battle Pass and standard banner characters because you can get those at any time from the standard banner, right? Or losing your 50/50s or anything like that. So the main thing we're going to be looking at here are these limited characters that you're able to select. Now, like I said, this banner is literally the exact same as a rate up banner otherwise, for the most part. You have the same base rate, same consolidated probability. Um, you know, now the main difference is you're going to notice some characters here in the non-rate up odds, and you're going to notice that you can lose the 50/50 to limited characters. I did do some pulls on this banner to try to star my Trixie up, and I did lose a 50/50 to Afros. So I can definitely confirm that, yes, you can lose the 50/50 to limited characters. So that in combination with, just the fact that you can pick anybody to rate up until Jinque, this is a very, very good banner to sink pulls into. And that's not even the entire part of the banner, right? So you also notice we have a shop icon here. So basically, every time you do a pull on a banner, you get a crown, right? So if you do a 10 pull, you get 10 crowns. And you can use this shop to exchange those crowns, 160 of them, for a free copy of any of the raid up combatants that you're able to select, right? You can also optionally select other things. I wouldn't recommend SSR wish tickets, but you can get Kato coins, XP, refinement locks, if you have some leftovers, right? So, the question that a lot of people are asking is, well, who should I pull? If this banner is so good, who should I go for? And we're going to be assuming that you don't have any of the characters going into this. Like I said, we have 15 selectable limiteds here. I'm disregarding any battle pass or any standard character because they're always obtainable through the standard banner. So out of these 15, I can kind of exclude 3 immediately, right? Uh, Luminous Luminous Star Poppy, she's obtainable from the core shop. It's She's not quite as accessible as standard banner characters, but she's still accessible at any point in the game as long as you have spare advanced cores to trade. I would not recommend summoning for Luminous Poppy. Um, and then Butterfly Chi and Savannah, just because these units aren't really that strong. I wouldn't really advise pulling for them. Um, Now, of course, you can pull for anybody you like. If there's anybody in particular that you're looking out for, then, obviously go right ahead. But may I give some personal recommendations as far as what I would recommend that you pull? And the first one is going to be the one on the bottom right here. This unit is Jinquei Bound Wings. Wasn't too long ago since this character last had a banner, but Jin Kui has proven herself to be an extremely powerful character. She does an insane amount of damage. With stars, she can flex into single target alongside AoE, and she just pushes the damage ceiling for red teams extremely high. Jin Kui existing is the sole reason why Curse isn't really a thing anymore, because why would you stack Curse when Jin Kui can just do way more damage by just mashing her skills, right? Um, so yeah, definitely recommend Jin Kui. As far as star up breakpoints here, I think she's very good at 0 stars. I think all of her star up breakpoints are very good. 1 star gives her flexibility with being able to stack her treasures in single target scenarios, which makes her better at single target DPS. Her 4 star increases her ceiling, and her 6 star it literally pretty much doubles the damage of her ultimate. It's one of the strongest 6 stars in the game. So whether you're free to play, light spender, whale, I would definitely highly recommend getting Jin Kui. As far as teams that I would generally recommend for her, um, you do have your standard red AoE team. This is going to be. Let me see here. Somebody filtered by red, actually. Yeah, so Felicia, Fata, Arena, and then Arena. This is the first team that I would generally recommend. Um, you can trade out Fata for like a Scarlet. You can trade out Arena for a more generic sustain like Sage, Anya, etc. This is just the best in slot option for this team. This is just a standard AoE team. Little card RNG reliant because you just have the 1 DPS, but Fata helps your Jinquei stack a lot quicker. If you want to vertically invest in a Jinquei, you could definitely consider getting a copy or two of Fata from the Celebration banner as well. Another variant of this team is a team that I have been using a ton in Clan Battle on the Green Boss, which is this team. I would only recommend. Well, okay, so if you're in 3 target, 0 star Jinquei is fine here. If you're against single target, I probably wouldn't run a Jinquei against 1 target unless she's at least 1 star. Then you kind of just go to a standard black tea hyper team and you'd replace the Jinquei with like an SR Yunpei or a Stacy, right? But if your Jinquei is starred up at least once, this comp is quite effective at comfortably dealing good damage to the green boss in clan battle, and just generally doing well in a lot of single target scenarios. Also a very good 3-target team, as I said before. Um, and then let me take a look here. So as far as other characters I would recommend, um, you kind of have your. So there's two greens that I'd kind of like to mention, which are Aphros and Shiro. So with the absence of Manami, besides Halloween events, right? I think Aphros does become the best AOE option for green, right? So it's very good damage with her AoE because it deals dire damage. You just need to make sure to debuff enemies. There's a lot of units that can do that. You have access to counter attacks. Um, she can gain SP quite quickly because her skill A upgrades to gain SP, and if you star her up, she'll gain SP when she counters as well. Um, and yeah, she fits very well. I think she's great at 0 stars. I think if you're trying to play her in PvP specifically, she's kind of reliant on 4 stars. But I think in PvE, generally, Aphros is going to be good at all star levels. You also have combat mode Shiro. Big disclaimer on this one: you do need 1-star Shiro for her to be effective. But Shiro is really, really good at 1 star plus. She's pretty much the Swiss Army knife of green. You can put her in multiple different teams. Um, she's very capable, does pretty decent damage, stacks vulnerability, right? Just a very, very good unit to just have at 1 star. So if we were to look over some teams that Shiro can fit in, and then at the same time we can kind of go over the Aphros team, right? So I guess I'll just start by posting the best in slot options, and then we'll talk about alternatives. Um, Now, do keep in mind that I would only run Eleanor if she's 4 stars. She's just a good sub DPS and can AoE debuff. Mandy is extremely good for an Aphros team. If you have Aphros and you like playing Aphros teams, I mean, we'll talk about that later, right? But Mandy's a superstar on this team because she just AoE debuffs. She's your sustain. She gives you damage increase with her passive. Obviously, she has the AoE debuff, so that allows Aphros to just go ham. If you don't have Mandy, right, Arena can also AoE debuff. You just lose the Aphros passive and stuff like that. Another unit that can AoE debuff, if we're being super duper budget, right, is going to be Evelina. She does have an AoE debuff card in her kit, so if you do need a debuffer, you can utilize her. And then Eleanor could be swapped out for, like a sustain, like Triss or Anya or Sage or something like that. The comp is very flexible. You just want Aphros. You want somebody who debuffs. You want Shiro if she's at least 1 star, and then you'd want a sustain typically. Arena and Mandy are just great for this team because they're both an AoE debuffer and a sustain, right? And then Eleanor is kind of like more of a Dolphin Whale option where she's a great sub DPS. Other teams that Shiro can fit on are the standard Asura Shiro comps that everybody plays. You have 3 Vulnipliers. You stack Vuln very quickly, deal a bunch of single target damage. Asura is also an excellent damage dealer, right? I have Mandy here just because she's the best in slot, but you can also run a generic assist like Arena, Triss, Anya, Sage. There's a lot of options for the 4th slot. Even if you don't have Manami, I mean, you could run a multitude of things in her place, right? Like you could just slot in like a random Sylviette, you could slot in a Viola, right, to just kind of focus on buffing your Asura, right? Because most people's Asuras will out damage their Shiros. So there's a few options there generally. But yeah, and then the third team, which I did kind of go over in the previous video, I think, but Delilah teams can also make great use out of Shiro, because Shiro is just a great sub DPS, and Delilah and Garfire are both Trinity. And hey, guess what? Mandy's Trinity too. So now you have a full Trinity team, right? You have a great sustain, great buffer, great debuffer, right? Both of these are relatively passive buffers, and then you have two great DPSs with Delilah and Shiro. Obviously, not a lot of people pulled Delilah Garfire, as they shouldn't, but it's a great team if you have them, right? And then other than that, what other units would I say that you should try to get? Uh, so I mean, Marlena's okay, right? She's just, if you really need like DPS for your blue team, AoE specifically, Marlena deals that in spades. Ren is a bit more situational, but she's good to have if you want to try some more spread-oriented strategies, and also she pairs terrifically with uh, Marlena. She also pairs well with Minotaur if you have her. But I would say if I had to recommend a blue unit to pull, it would probably just still be Scarlet. Um, Now, Scarlet is a unit that released in the game very early on, right? She was like the second non-collab limited banner in the game. Back then, she was definitely the best AoE option that we had because her competition was Perfect Pitch Echo. So Scarlet was kind of seen as more of a DPS, and Scarlet was absolutely wreaking havoc in PvP. However, uh, nowadays she kind of just scales into a passive bot, which is fine because this is an incredible passive. 20 to 38% of her armor pen is transferred to all allies, right? Very, very, very capable, good unit. Just buffs, anybody on your team, especially those that scale great with pen. Uh, is still really, really good in PvP. I would say best in slot PvP team right now is like Minami, Scarlet, Sage, Arena if you're a whale. I still think Scarlet's going to be the best in slot second DPS option in PvP and Arena, even at lower spender tiers. She doesn't really rely, like, her star up effects aren't really that great. The best thing you get out of her star ups, unironically, is just more pen scaling on her passive, right? You just give allies more pen. That's literally the best part of her star up effect. Um, but yeah, she's quite good. Um, there are going to be future blue units that utilize her a lot better. If we do eventually get Blue Yunkin or Mink added to the game, they both do really like having a Scarlet on their team. Otherwise, she's very solid in PvP, and then she's just a good general slot in to have for like a Marlena team, or it's a good like alternative for Jinquei teams, Triss teams, stuff like that. So I definitely think it's very good. And then the last thing to go over. So yeah, those are the units that I would recommend. I would definitely recommend Jinquei the most. Um, if you already have Jinquei, then you could look at Aphros. Just keep Shiro in mind. If you get her to 1 star, she becomes really good. And then if you don't have Scarlet, that's also another unit that I would definitely recommend getting, especially if you are a PvP oriented player, right? Everything else, situational, roll what you like, right? Just don't roll Savannah or Poppy, please. they're not worth going for. Poppy's not bad, she's just in the core shop, but Savannah, please don't go for Savannah. You'll be very disappointed. Um, Last unit to go over, Mandy. The unit that I thought was going to be the only unit that was going to be introduced with this update. So Mandy is very interesting. Um, so as we've kind of gone over, she's a sustain. She shields 2-turn AoE shield by default, pretty good. Can remove buffs and AoE debuff. We kind of went over that in Afro's teams. She's a superstar in Afro's teams because she can AoE debuff for you. Um, Ultimates, whatever, you're not really ulting much on Mandy anyways, but it does deal damage and fear, so I guess it could come up. The main superstar of Mandy's kit is actually her passive. When your entire team is green, you increase your entire team's final damage by 7%, which scales up to 12. Now the question is, should you pull Mandy? Should you especially pull Mandy when it is half anniversary? In most cases, you're not really going to need her. I do think Mandy is the best in slot PvE sustain option for green. I also think she's an excellent option to have in Phantom Clash PvP. for one of your teams. She's very good, but just because a unit's very good doesn't mean you have to pull them. And the reason for that is because we already have access to so many other sustains, right? We have access to Arena for green, who can also AoE debuff for Aphros. We have access to Triss. We have access to Sage. And we have access to Anya. We even have access to Lily. Like, if you, she's in the battle pass, right? She's not great, but she's good at keeping you alive, right? Mandy is great because of her final damage up passive. If you want to min-max and push your green team to the limits, because you need that extra boost in clan battle, or you're pushing leaderboard in events or Nightmare's Call, you're going to want her. But you're not going to need her in most cases because, again, other units can do her job of being a sustain and even her job of being an AoE debuffer for Aphros. As far as star up breakpoints, I'm going to be honest, all of these star up effects don't matter, right? 7.5% attack, who cares? A little bit of healing, who cares? Final damage debuff when removing buffs, situational. The main thing that you get from starring her up, just like Scarlet, is increasing the value of her passive, right? So as a result, I don't really think there's a breakpoint. You either pull her at 0 stars because she's a superstar, she's a great sustain, she's going to do excellent work for your green team. But again, you don't have to pull her because there's a lot of sustain options for green. Or you get her to 6 stars because you're a whale and you're looking to min-max your PvE, and you're looking to min-max that final damage boost that she provides passively to your green teams, right? Teams that Mandy is going to be played in, pretty much going to, I would just go back in the video, look at when I went over Aphros and Shiro. It's going to be more or less the same thing. She's going to be best in slot in Aphros teams, Delilah teams, and the Asura teams. Just make sure, of course, that your entire team is green when you play her so that you actually get her passive, right? But yeah, she's good. Not a must pull, but if you're a min-maxer, you need a healer, or you're a simp, which is understandable, then by all means, pull for Mandy. She's great. Just obviously do keep in mind she's running at the same time as Half Anniversary, and I would say that some units, Jinquei in particular, are definitely much higher on the pull priority list than her. But yeah, oh, and before I forget, I might as well go over this just as a general PSA. Please do keep in mind that they kind of stealth added an update to the combat archive. You can now level them to 25 instead of 20. It is very expensive to do so books-wise, but it does give you a way to, get all your books spent. This is going to be great for increasing your combat power so that you can get more advantages in PvP, or, you'll be able to more easily reach those CP thresholds for super high tower floors in PvE. So yeah, definitely go back to your combat archive, level these up as much as you can. Obviously, prioritize the ones that have the most stars and the highest rarity units, right? All right. Well, that's going to be all for today. Hopefully we get I always say this, but hopefully we get a lighter patch in 2 weeks, because I'm sure everybody's funds will be drained between Minnow and Half Anniversary and everything. It's been an interesting 6 months so far. The developers seem to be more receptive to feedback recently, which is really good. So I'm really hoping to see some great features and events added in the future, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Fundoll and Alex have to cook. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a comment, letting me know if you enjoyed the video, and I will see you more than likely in 2 weeks.